Hello, today in the shed we are going to be looking at this Scalextric Escort Cosworth. If you've not seen any of my reviews before, what I tend to do is I tend to be looking at the bargain basement end of eBay for Scalextric cars. My target is always £10 delivered. I often can't meet that. This particular car is a year old now, so I got this last August actually, so it's older than a year, 14 months, and was £13.25 delivered to my door. Now when I bought it, the pictures looked like it was in an okay condition, but when I received it, it was in a very poor way. It was originally the blue and white motorsport Escort Cosworth from Scalextric, released around about mid-1990s, so 94 to 96, that sort of period. It came in a set. In the set it had front and rear lights, or at least front lights and brake lights, and then they later released it as a model, as a standalone model, without any lights as well. And indeed I got quite excited thinking I was getting a car with lights, and when I got it, it didn't have any lights. But more importantly, the bodywork, it was the blue and white number 2, the bodywork had yellowed quite considerably, both the wheels, which are white here, but also the actual body itself. So the first job that I undertook when I received it was to do the respray that you see on it here. It's a rough job, but I enjoy doing these sorts of things and put some decals on it, and again I enjoy making the decals myself. But today what we're interested in is the performance of this car. So I had it for 14 months. I drive it not regularly, but I do certainly drive it quite a lot. I would say every couple of months at least. And it's a bit of a disappointing drive. Certainly if you were to equate it to one of the newer Scalextric rally cars, it really doesn't stand up in the same league. So we'll run a few laps here of this track to get a baseline of it. It's going to be somewhere between 7 seconds, 7.7 and 8 seconds, somewhere in that sort of region. And if you were to look at this car, you're looking at sub 7 seconds. So this would be doing like 6.5, 6.4, 6.3. You're looking at this is a 4-wheel drive car. Even the 4-wheel drive Scalextric, that would be doing 7 seconds dead, maybe creeping into the 6.9. So let's do the baseline laps of this, and then we'll see where we stand, and then we're going to make 2 changes to it, and we'll look at that in more detail with an overhead camera, so that we can understand why we're going to be making those changes. So let's have a quick look at the car, have a bit of a better understanding of the changes we're going to make and why we're going to make those changes, and then let's do the baseline lap, apply the fixes, and then rerun the lap. Now there'll be 2 fixes, and I'll do them one after the other, and we'll see what changes the fix has made to the lap times. I've not done these, so I have no idea whether we're going to be super successful or not. I feel reasonably confident that we should get this down to around about 7.2, 7.3, but I could be overconfident, and we may find that the changes that we make no difference whatsoever, and we just end up with a 7 second car. Okay. Let's have a look at it, overhead cam, and understand exactly what we're going to be doing. See you in a sec. Okay, welcome back. Said car. One of the things I like about this car, and I try and get this onto the film, is that as it stands right now, the gap between the wheel arches and the wheels, I feel is all about right. It looks lovely. I think in terms of the actual detail of the car itself, forget the spray job you've got here. Nice set of vents in the bonnet, nice set of shut lines, nice bit of detailing on the windscreen. That is the original. Again, as I say, forget all of this. Lovely wing, 2 wings here. A lot of detail down the side. So you've got the petrol cap here. Good bulging arches. Again, if you can sort of see those bulging arches from the side there, whether it comes across or not, I don't know. A nice seal down the bottom here where you've got these Bilstein, Osram, OMP logos, and again bulging front arches. The front, again, very nice detailing with regard to the grills and the lights as well, and the bottom grille. So I mean, all in all, I think it's a very nice looking model. 2 drivers inside. Again, I've done a respray on those. I changed these over. These are not the original wing mirrors, so those are more in keeping with the kind of XR3i type of wing mirrors I remember from my youth. But yeah, painted the drivers a little bit. None of it's a very good job, but none of it's a very bad job. Underneath, fairly standard looking chassis. We have the guide here. It's one of those kind of pop-out guides that connects to the two metal pickups here. They obviously connect to the brushes, which connects to the track and powers the motor. But what that does mean is that you don't have any wires here causing any friction on the guide. So the guide itself is nice and loose. Being sort of mid-90s, it's not a very deep guide, but again, you know, it's fine. It's long enough. It's all functional. No real issues with that. And then if we have a look inside, you can see some of the detail that we were chatting about earlier. Get those out. Now, I said that I bought this car and there were no lights, so I've added these lights in. So these are kind of stock standard Scalextric grain of wheat bulbs. I've just wired them up to the motor so that we have some front lights and we have some rear lights as well. The original chassis has accommodation here for that brake unit. If you've ever seen those on the Scalextric cars, when you release the trigger and the rear lights brake, that's what this sort of unit here is for. I do like on the chassis, by the way, we've got these sort of mud guards kind of coming round. I mean, that's a nice looking feature, I think, anyway. You know, really makes it a rally car. The rest of it is very straightforward and standard. So the areas that we're going to be focusing on are the front. And the reason that is because the front is wobbly. Goodness me, I don't know my history well enough, but Scalextric introduced a set of bank curves, and in order, let me just get these two bits out here. These are things we're going to stick in a bit later. In order for us to be able to navigate through those bank curves, what Scalextric did is they changed all of their cars to have this floppy front axle. Okay, so the axle is very loose and there's a lot of tip, and what that means is that there's no support when you go around corners at all. There's nothing to keep the front end in place. It just wants to twist and flop out, and that's exactly what we'll see when we do our base lap. So one of the things we're going to be doing, and you just see me take out a couple of the pre-test items, is we're going to glue in these 3D printed items here. Now, you may not be able to see those very clearly, but what they are effectively are fixed height axle stays. So put them on there, it goes on there like that, and then that gets glued to the chassis plate here, and that will fix this so that these wheels are just on the track, and then now when we go around corners, rather than the whole axle just rocking loosely, it will stay nice and solid as it is and give that car support. So that's point number one. Point number two, very straightforward. What we're going to do is we're going to stick weight. We're going to stick weight in here. Now, weight is a huge discussion point for many people. A lot of people spend a lot of time race tuning cars, putting a little bit of weight back here, a bit back here, you know, maybe a bit between the pinion, a bit at the front. But that's great. Not really interested in doing that. All I'm going to do is I'm just going to pile in a load of weight here, because what I want to do is I want to lower the center of gravity, because we have a very heavy body. This body, I mean, if we were to weigh that, I'll just turn that on quickly. This body weighs in at 40 grams, okay? And then if I just chuck the car together and chuck that on the scales, so the car is 45, so half of the weight is in the body, and half of the weight is in the chassis. So what we're going to do is we're going to increase the weight of the chassis, which will effectively lower the center of gravity, and that in turn should help us with the driving of this car, should help it handle better. Now, all of that said, let's have a look at it on the track. So join me in a second and we'll do a couple of laps. We'll do 5 laps, in fact. We'll have a timer system calling it out and we'll see how it's performing. Okay, speak to you soon. Okay, so let's lay down some base laps. Got a lap timer here. You'll hear it calling out the laps as they go around. The first lap is just an out lap. So when we go through, you'll hear it say 0, 0, and then the next 5 laps will all be timed. Good chance I'm going to come off because, as I say, this is a difficult car to drive. So let's have a look. So try and take it easy on the first lap. Obviously, I don't want to crash when I'm not even racing.
0.00. 8.07.
So that's 8.0.
8.14.
1. And therein lies the problem. There we go. Just rolls out the slot.
15.04. 8.21.
Okay, so if you'd have watched the earlier introduction, you'll have heard me say that I was doing somewhere between 7 seconds and 8 seconds, and I was hoping to get a 7.2. The best lap we did there was 8.04, and again, if you followed through to the overhead shot, you'll have seen that I had my, whilst they weren't glued in place, I had some axle stays already in the car. Now, because they weren't glued in, they weren't really supporting it, but they would have been doing a job, which is why I came up with the 7 seconds to 8 seconds. But our baseline is 8 seconds. So, you know, let's see if we can't get this car down to about 7.5. All right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to glue in those axle stays. It's only going to take me about 10 minutes to glue them in, and then we'll come back again and we'll rerun that test to see how we're doing. Okay. Yeah, that's it. So I'm just going to glue them in. See you in a second. Okay, welcome back. So I know that I said that I'd do one change timed lap, second change timed lap. As it turns out, I've done both changes. So I've glued in the axle stays, and I've also added in 15 grams of weight where the brake unit would have been on this car. I think I showed you with the overhead where I was going to put that. The reason that I did both changes, I did run the laps with the front axle stay, and what happened was I realised that now that I've got the front wheels actually in contact full time with the track, the front tyres themselves weren't round, and so I was getting a lot of bouncing. And I was doing about 7.9, 7.8 laps, so only 0.2 of a second quicker. And I know that we're only heading for 0.5 of a second quicker, but I didn't feel that that was the kind of change that I wanted to see. I then replaced those front tyres with some flat tyres, so not the originals, but some nice known flat tyres, and I was still seeing a 7.8. So I thought, well, I'll put the weight in to see whether or not I'm actually going to achieve anything here. And of course, I'm hoping to show you that we have got a much more drivable and indeed quicker car than we had to start with. So without further ado, I'll press start on the timer and we'll start doing those laps. So as I say, both changes have been done, front tyres have also been changed, and we shall see how we get on.
0.00. 7.64. 7.54. 7.57. 7.54.
Oh, and we're off. So anyway, look, we've only got one more lap to go. 2 7.54s in there, which, you know, that was our target all along, to get basically half a second off. I'm sure with a little bit of fettling, we could bring that down. Now, let's just bring that car around. One of the changes, as I was making the changes, I should say, what I noticed was one of the rear wheels was buckled. And I see that when it's driving around the track, probably not coming across on the camera. So that's a further change that I'll do. I'll take that off, I'll realign that wheel and glue it back on again, assuming of course the axle isn't bent. Yeah, so that's it really. I think we just wanted to see whether or not we could improve this car, and I think half a second is a very good improvement, and I know that I can drive this car quicker than we've just shown you on this quick lap. However, I feel fairly confident that if we continue to refine where we put the weight, remember I said we're just going to stick it all in one place, and if we look at those rear wheels as well, get them running nice and straight, I'm sure that we will knock off another 0.1, maybe even another 0.2, who knows, of time on that, which would bring this car not only half a second quicker, but 0.7 of a second quicker, which is quite a remarkable change when you're looking at tweaking a race car. So yeah, very pleased with that, and I think that the more pleasing aspect is that I've now got a car that drives reasonably quickly and reasonably smoothly around my track. So I'm quite happy with how it's handling now, whereas before it would be a real handful to even get around these tracks. Now it's actually, you know, half decent at driving. So yeah, that's really all you can ask for of these little model cars. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and yeah, we've got a couple of planned films coming up in the short while. So yeah, subscribe. See you again.